In this video, I'd like to talk about the system called SUN. It's Symbolic Universal Notation. This was a language system that was designed to reach the deaf and the deaf-blind for accessing Scripture. In other words, we encountered some deaf populations when I was involved in Bible translation, and they never learned a sign language. So even if we translated a Bible into a sign language, they couldn't read it because they never had any formal education. Most of the deaf people worldwide, 56 million, are like that. They never are able to find education to get a sign language, and so they're left with a language that just is gestures, grunts, pointing, things like that. Basic skills. Some of the people that you meet, they never have a name even because there's no point in the families. The deaf-blind are even more challenging because they can't even see or hear, so they actually have to touch a set of symbols to learn how to actually read. Not Braille, that's something just for the blind who can hear. That's a very different system. So we developed this system, but that's not the question. We're not really relating to the deaf and the deaf-blind. What I'm interested in is looking at how to accelerate literacy. If you remember in some of the earlier videos, we talked about universal grammar. Is there a grammar that's a subset of a grammar that's underneath all of the other languages' grammars? Okay, so in other words, if Spanish grammar is here and English grammar is here and Hausa grammar is here, is there a grammar underneath that feeds all of these systems? And when looking back into Genesis 11, I have to believe so because there was one grammar at one time. And all the languages that develop over time are based off of other languages. So the question then becomes, what would that universal grammar look like? And to me, it's a thought language. All humans have thought, and they're basic thoughts, things that they see, things that we all do as humans that are consistent, are thoughts in the brain. They may not have the words that other languages have, but they have that infrastructure of thought. So what if we could develop a language that was based on thought? That is SUN, and that's what it does. Let me demonstrate it to you and then make my point about literacy. Okay, and so I'm going to show you and teach you a little bit about SUN. Okay, and SUN is based off of symbols. There's a few in here that are Mandarin symbols. This is one, okay, but most of them are created symbols for simplicity. I'm going to teach you these symbols very quickly and show you that you can read a language in a matter of minutes, okay, if it's in SUN. The first symbol is for a person, okay, it represents a person. That's all this symbol means. When you see it, it is a person. But this next symbol is people. If one is a person, two are two people, okay, or people in general. Okay, depends how it's used. This third one is the person is doing something. You can guess what this might be, but they're in motion. They are walking. Okay, so it's a person who is walking. This next one is a little bit strange, but it's just a V, and the V stands for very, which means that it is something that is very much, okay, or there's more, or it's doing something greater, okay, so very. The next symbol is if you put two together. Very and walk means to run, okay, and so that's how these symbols work. You put them together, and then you actually have something that's happening from them. Just a couple more. This one looks like a pie, some would say a pizza, but it represents all the pieces. Okay, so it's the word all. And then one more. This one, it's not a cross. We do have that as a symbol, but this one represents land, different levels of land. Okay, now I just want to review these symbols very quick. Person, people, walk, very, run, all, and land. I want to show you something. I just want you to look at it very quick. And look at this. This is a sentence. Okay, and what we see is the symbol people, run, all, land. Okay, and so people run all land. Well, what I'm actually doing is taking a verse out of the Bible. It's Mark chapter 6, verse 55. And they ran through the whole region and began to bring the sick to him on mattresses. Okay, and it's basically where Jesus does a healing. But as I teach you the words, I can teach you sentences. Well, that's incredible, actually. And what we found is we could teach deaf people in a matter of 5 days how to read the Bible. And we have the whole Bible translated into those symbols. So now the question becomes, how can we use this for literacy? If I can teach you to read that quickly in another language, can I teach you how to read another language just as quick? And I believe so. I'm going to show you in the next video a materials kit that shows how to take literacy and accelerate it very, very quickly. But this is the first book in that, and it's called the Sun Book for Literacy. What we did is we did some experiments with some children, a 7, 9, and 11-year-old, and we taught them the sun symbols. Once we taught them those symbols, we had them read a chapter out of the Bible, not an easy chapter, a challenging one. It was on the Transfiguration, and we read it. We had them learn sun symbols first, Russian second. They never learned Russian, and then they read a Russian Bible third. And then they gave us answers to comprehension questions about that chapter. That's incredible. We also have some graduate research on this to see, do people retain vocabulary in another language if they are using sun? And the answer is yes, they do, better than other methodology that's out there. And this Sun Book basically is a listing of symbols and vocabulary words. Why is this important? I want you to think about acquisition order from the earlier videos. How long does it take to listen? Well, what are they listening to? They're listening to language. They're picking up grammar. They're picking up words. Then they go to speaking. Well, when does that happen? Months and months and months and months after. Now you could say, yes, but that's a baby. That's a child. But an adult learning a second language, the same timeline exists. How long does it take for them to listen versus speak in that language? Months and months and months. What if we could condense that time for vocabulary and get it down to days? And then all of a sudden, people who can't read have a working vocabulary in just days. That's what this program does, and that's where Sun begins. So it basically is a book that teaches the symbols over 2 weeks' time. And then after they learn these symbols, they have vocabulary. In the next video, I'll tell you what to do with the vocabulary and how it goes through the materials, through all the different layers. But it was important to teach Sun as its foundation because it saves weeks, even months of time in language learning, including literacy. So I look forward to the next video where it goes through all the materials.